Clarissa, thank you for helping us understand the story that's come out of Washington yesterday.
Sure.
The Obama administration has suggested that they may begin arming the rebels. They haven't made it completely clear what they are going to do. Can you tell us, what could it mean?
Well, I think there's a number of prospects. There is the potential of arming the rebels directly in the way that they have been asking Washington for some time now to be armed, which is with heavy weaponry, anti-tank, anti-aircraft weapons, the kind of weapons they say that they need in order to be able to topple the regime of Bashar al-Assad. We could also be looking potentially at a no-fly zone, perhaps a limited strip of territory that would provide some type of a safe haven for civilians who are seeking refuge from the relentless bombardment. That's an option that's popular with many civilians on the ground inside Syria who are living day and night with helicopter gunships, with fighter jets, dropping bombs on civilian areas at all times of day or night. We could also be looking at something far less radical or far less interventionist than either of those options. Perhaps providing the rebels with some type of training, providing them with military equipment such as body armor or armored vehicles. So it's difficult to know exactly what is going on. The administration so far hasn't given us a clear indication of what this military support really will look like.
If there is this concept of providing any kind of significant military aid to the rebels, which is what the White House said yesterday, surely the command and control aspect on the ground of the rebels who we're providing this aid to is vital.
It is, and this is an issue that has plagued the opposition, the rebels, and all supporters of the Syrian opposition and armed resistance, honestly, from day one. They're still, for all the efforts that have gone into trying to form a more cohesive and coherent body of different fighter groups, what you still have on the ground is fragmented, different groups, many fighters who migrate from group to group depending on who has more money one month, who has more ammunition, who has more bullets, who has more guns. And there really isn't a clear chain of command that unites all these different groups. And that's obviously a cause for deep concern, because if you're thinking about arming these rebels and you're thinking about trying to make sure that the weapons that you're giving them go to the ones who you want them to go to and not to other, perhaps more extremist or militant elements who have joined the Syrian uprising, then clearly you want to make sure that this is an organized, cohesive fighting force with a clear chain of command. And at the moment, you really just are not seeing that on the ground.
So we don't know essentially how many men General Idris has under his command versus how many men are there fighting from outside of Syria?
Well, I mean, the wonderful thing about Syrian rebel leaders is that every single one of them will tell you that they have 25,000 men fighting for them. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of overlap in that 25,000. It's very difficult to say. Technically, General Idris is the head of the Free Syrian Army, but even the idea of the Free Syrian Army is something I've been struggling to get my head around now for over a year and a half. It's not really clear.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we've seen videos coming out of Syria where well-armed militants are claiming allegiance to the FSA or claiming to be members of the FSA, but they seem to be more like your typical jihadists.
Well, I mean, I think the problem that you have is that, especially with the videos, basically different groups or different interest groups pay money to have people fly a flag for a group and say, hi, I'm with, the Idlib Martyrs Brigade, and look at our giant weapons cache that we've confiscated, or whatever it might be. So it's a little difficult to ascertain with these videos which groups are really speaking for whom and what their central ideology is, because it's almost like, rent a fighter, basically, for a lot of particularly outside interest groups from the Gulf who come through to Turkey with, honestly, bags full of money saying, listen, we want to have a fighting group sponsored under our name.
You mentioned one last theme here. You mentioned a no-fly zone. How important is the concept of a no-fly zone?
I mean, one of the biggest problems that the rebels face now, particularly after losing this, strategically devastating defeat in Qusair, the border town near Lebanon, is that you need to have supply lines, right? You need to be able to move your gear, your weapons, your food, your aid, whatever it might be, in and out to the front lines to resupply fighters as they're engaged in various battles. And at the moment, that is extremely difficult for the rebels because the regime owns the skies. And you know, the bombardment, it's difficult to give people a sense of how frequent it is, of how large scale it is, of how devastating it is, both in terms of the destruction, but also psychologically and logistically. It makes it very difficult to move things around. So the no-fly zone.
So you would almost need a no-fly zone if you were going to arm the rebels.
It would seem to me, I'm not a military expert, but it would seem to me to be a necessary part of, if you want to move those weapons in and out in an exact, precise way where you know who's getting them and everything to be sort of done to a finely tuned plan, then yes, you would need to have some kind of cover while you were doing those types of movements.
Have we seen any signs that a no-fly zone is in the offing?
To the best knowledge that I have, we have not seen. I mean, I think all of these options are under consideration and they're all under the table. We've heard rumblings today from some Western diplomats, according to Reuters, that they're considering a no-fly zone along the Jordanian border. At this stage, it's a lot of conjecture and speculation, and we don't really know what exactly this military support is going to look like, or whether it's even going to be any really significant form of military support. There are some people who are suggesting really this is a way to try to make the rebels feel more loved, give them some comfort and morale and a sort of strategic boost after their losses in Qusair and in the face of an imminent crackdown in Aleppo, and also a way to say, you know, the opposition has been dragging its heels about committing to attending a peace conference next month in Geneva that's being brokered by the US and Russia. So perhaps this is a way also of getting some leverage in there and saying, okay, we're helping you out. Now you need to get to this table and sit down and no one's leaving until we've got some kind of an agreement out of it. Excellent. It seems like we've learned one new thing yesterday, but still there's probably much more we don't know yet. Many questions still unanswered, certainly. Clarissa Ward, thank you very much. Thank you. For CBSNews.com, Tucker Reels in London.